But the first thing is everyone was talking about Jack Dorsey.
Yeah.
This must have really been painful for him because in order to get himself off the hook legally, he had to admit that his product is of no value. Here he is looking like he just lost his Wilson.
Mr. Dorsey, does Twitter have the ability to influence elections?
No.
You don't believe Twitter has any ability to influence elections?
No, we are one part of a broad spectrum of communication channels that people have.
Wilson! Wilson! For crying out loud, Jack Dorsey, make yourself. You wouldn't be presentable at a Korn concert.
Unless he's on stage.
That's hilarious.
So he had to sit there and say, no, Twitter has no ability to influence the election. And when they heard about it, actually, the Joe Biden campaign weren't happy. They tweeted this in response. So it seems pretty
disappointed, yeah.
Man.
Very unhappy.
Shouldn't give access to his aides.
No, he was describing what had just happened.
Yeah.
They were like, wait a minute, but why are we paying all of these Twitter people to make sure that they shut down the New York Post story?
Damn you influencers.
We have no influence. Well, why did you ban the story at all as it relates to the election? I'm a partisan hack. I don't know. I just came back from an ayahuasca trip. Have you seen my nose ring? I think it's fake. I think it's a fake nose ring.
It's a clip-on. He's just got a small family of sparrows living in a beard. He's like, this is Tweety. I nurture them.
Can you imagine having to follow that guy at work? Like he's your fearless leader for the CEO of your company.
He's never like, there.
No,
who the hell is this guy?
He's your very fearful.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like he goes back to his office, goes, guys, listen, we are in the information age. We are one of the most influential platforms in the world. We are the ones who provide the free exchange of information and ideas. And then when asked, like, so you believe that you have an influence on information ideas? Where'd you get that from?
Not me.
No,
not us.
Senator Cruz, I'd like to respond to that by saying, no, we are completely impotent. No, terrible. We
have no influence on the election. We are ranked dead last as far as social influence, and I cannot get an erection to please my lover. It is a real problem. But I can actually throw this out of a tower and have my partner climb it. So. But I've sworn off radishes. So here's another one. By the way, it's really important to note, the New York Post is still banned from tweeting today.
Right.
Okay, they're still banned from tweeting today because Jack Dorsey went on to say, well, what they can do is they can delete their original tweet.
Right.
And then they'll be able to, first off, why would they have to delete their original tweet? They said, well, no, they're not banned. New York Post can go into their account, delete the original tweet, and then they'll be able to, we've unbanned the article, is what they said. So they said, the original tweet was a violation. Now we've made it so the article isn't a violation. Well, then why is that tweet banned, right? It should retroactively apply because you realize, oh, it turns out it wasn't Russian hack.
Yeah.
It was actually real. You guys are the Russian hacks. Irony. So if that is no longer considered Russian disinformation, which we know it's not.
Right.
They were saying, Jack Dorsey said at this hearing, all right, New York Post can go into their account as long as they delete the first tweet, and then they can repost it after. Here's the people who understand social media like we understand it. Why would they do that? Here's why. Because there's a critical mass that occurs if you put out a tweet and it goes viral. Let's say 50,000 retweets, 100,000 retweets, 250,000 likes. Yeah. You lose that. It is far more valuable to have 100,000 retweets and likes on one than it is to have 50,000 across two. People need to understand that because that is what these algorithms favor, and they've already done the damage. In other words, if New York Post has to delete their original, breaking, validated, authenticated scoop, now they repost it, it might get a fraction of the interactions, and Jack Dorsey knows that. So it's like, well, it'd be like if YouTube came out and said, well, Stephen, if he just deletes everything and now he can make videos critical of Vox. Oh, well, thank you. By the way, will you throttle them so that no one can see them? Yes, of course. We'll make sure that nobody sees your videos on Vox. But you can release them.
Yeah, instead of millions of views, we'll give you tens of views to start with.
And think of this. They're asking for New York Post to remove it. So instead of them removing it, it's no longer a Section 230 issue.
Exactly.
It's no longer Twitter has removed it as it relates to New York Post, because if anyone has had the ability to prove good faith or a lack thereof, which was the central part of the hearing yesterday, and the questions that were raised, it all goes away if you've made the user take it down.
Here's the thing, though. One of the Hunter Biden articles, at least one of them, was still blocked at the time of the hearing. Here, let's show this up. We have it as B-roll. Look, this is right here. Bring it up there, quarterback here.
It's coming.
There
we go.
Yeah, there you go. This is still, at this point, you will see, cannot be posted at the time of the hearing. So that's a big thing to me, lying under oath.
That's technically called perjury.
Technically called perjury.
Just technically.
Although,
also
you know,
practically. Also legally.
Bill Clinton got a blowjob when we threw out the rule book on perjury.
No, we did. Yeah.
I think it's called a mouth release.
Now, and here's an admission. I want to ask you this, half-Asian lawyer Bill Richmond. Is this an admission? Because after being publicly called out on what we just showed you, Twitter unblocked the story.
Yes.
So again, at the time, maybe they didn't admit it, but it's like, hey, hold on a second. You said at the hearing that it wasn't blocked.
Yeah.
You said that the New York Post can go in and basically Kevorkian themselves. And then you say, but then everyone can post it right now. Then people are, while this is happening live, this is amazing to me. These people run social media and they don't understand that they're being discredited on their own platforms.
Yeah.
As they're speaking. But how dumb is that? They said they made a mistake. They said this was we shouldn't have done that. That was a mistake on our part. But they said you can't actually have the original tweet. Even though it was a mistake on our part, it was still bad then. It was still against our rules then. Even though we've just said that our rules don't matter.
I think Bill's point is very well received.
Yeah.
They know that there's liability at this point, and they are really trying to skirt it. So let's get to some more. This is also what should scare everybody there. All of the Democrats support the censorship of speech online.
Yeah.
And I use that word. I didn't used to use that word, but I do now. I do now. When I say censorship, because they are in bed with the government, when they are suppressing actual stories that relate to government officials and the potential future president of the United States, now we are dealing with companies that are in cahoots with the government who are trying to do their bidding. And think about this for a second. When we've talked about the big backers for Biden, right? We've talked about Wall Street, we've talked about big tech, we've talked about big media. There have never been companies more powerful than big tech.
Yeah.
Twitter kind of necessarily doesn't really need to be included in there, but we'll include them just because we don't want Jack to go off the deep end.
That's true.
Right, yeah.
I don't
He's
like
real close
him,
to the edge.
but I see him as a worthy opponent. I don't want him to actually walk off a ledge. But you look at Facebook, Alphabet, Google, right? Twitter. You can probably toss Apple there into the mix. Amazon. There have never been companies more powerful than these companies, and the Democrats are fawning over them. If you go and watch these hearings, fawning over them and begging, please, 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 can we give you more control so you can give us kickbacks? Can you please censor people so that no information that might be presenting us in a negative light even just, sees the light of day? Please, please, please. And these are the party of the little guy. Think about this for a second. Donald Trump isn't saying, I want to get the New York Times removed from Twitter. He's not saying, I want to get liberals removed. He's saying, we need free speech for all. Just like when he said, not saying white supremacists or neo-Nazis who should be condemned totally, but they were fine people on both sides. Donald Trump believes that people who want to tear down Confederate statues, even though he disagrees with them, that they can be fine people. Donald Trump believes that people who disagree with him should be able to be on Twitter. He believes that even the fake news, lying media, CNN, New York Times should be on there. He just wants the right to rebut, to have a little bit of a volley back and forth. As opposed to the Democrats, this is something that was chilling to me. I don't know the name of this broad. Kind of looks like Elizabeth Warren, but isn't. She actually, when talking with Zuckerberg and Dorsey, called on them to censor more and specifically the president. Here you go.
I believe that the tech companies here today need to take more action, not less, to combat misinformation, including misinformation on the election, misinformation on the COVID-19 pandemic, and misinformation and posts meant to incite violence. And that should include misinformation spread by President Trump on their platforms.
Ooh.
So here's the thing. That's bad enough.
That's bad, yeah.
If you add more context, it's even worse because Jack Dorsey had just gotten done saying, when he was talking about, I think it was the leader of Hamas or the Iranian regime, talking about eradicating the Jews, saying, well, we actually allow that because we have policies that allow world leaders if it's saber rattling. But they have censored Donald Trump's posts. So think about this for a second. That lady would rather the Iranian regime and Hamas and ISIS have ability on social media because no Democrat said, come on, take that down from the Ayatollah there.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and do you think that little exclamation point came up and said, check to see if this story is true whenever the Khomeini said that the Holocaust didn't happen? Do you think that Twitter was making sure that people read the full article so that they weren't led astray when he's posting something like that? I don't think so. And I don't think any Democrat is calling for anything like that because it's a useful tool for them. And until it turns on them.
Their only motions, their only calls, if you watch this, was for more censorship.
Yeah.
It was, hey, Please, we'll give you more control. It was people talk about a dog whistle. This wasn't a dog whistle. This was the Democrats saying, go back and watch the entire hearing summit.
Yeah.
What was it? Is it subpoenas? I don't know what we call it.
So their hearings, they agreed to show up without having to be forced with the subpoenas because they were threatened with subpoenas, and they just said, fine, we'll come and testify.
Okay. So go back and watch the entire hearing. And it's basically them saying to the leaders of big tech, hey, if we win, we're going to protect you, and we're going to make sure that you can remove people you don't like with the hate speech policy. We got you covered.
Somebody ran away.